So Josh, I'm going to ask you to come on up and share with us. Thank you.
How you guys doing today? Thank you, Dr. Turner, for the invitation just to share my story and just where I come from. Just a little bit about myself. I grew up right here in Southern California, Inland Empire. Went to Ontario. I went to Colony High School in Ontario, California. Then on from there, got a scholarship for football to Oregon State University. And then after my time there, I was undrafted to the Philadelphia Eagles for 4 years, won a Super Bowl championship with them, and had a couple of years with the Indianapolis Colts. Is that better? Indianapolis Colts, New York Jets, and I just finished up with the Atlanta Falcons. But something that you guys really don't know about me is that I have narcolepsy, which is a neurological condition where you can't regulate your sleep-wake cycle. So, and really just going back to when I was 12 years old, I was athletic. I played sports. My mom take us everywhere in the car just to go from different place to place. And one thing that she noticed is I would pass out instantly as soon as we got in the car, out cold, no matter how long the ride. And then when we got to our destination, boom, wake up, burst full of energy, and I was good to go. And I just thought that was just me being athletic, just exerting so much energy through sports that I needed that rest in the car, and then that's just how I thought of it, and it really wasn't until later on in life. I'm 18 years old now, and I'm a freshman in college, and I'm still busy, even busier now, balancing school and football. And I came home for winter break. My mom was like, I think you should get a sleep study because the things that you're telling me that are going on in school, you know what I mean? You're falling asleep all the time, and that's not normal for a person, and I did a sleep study. And at that point, I thought my mom was a respiratory therapist. So she diagnoses and treats sleep apnea. And she thought for the longest that's what I had, and I did a sleep study, and come to find out I didn't have it the first time I took it. And then really going through life, all right, I think at that point, all right, I think I'm cool, I'm good. And really it gets worse, progressively worse as I get older. And taking it back a couple of years after that, this is my second year in the league. I went to Philadelphia Eagles, and me and my wife, my girlfriend at the time, were driving, and me being stubborn, like, all right, I'm good. I'm driving my car. We're on a 2-lane road. Just keep going, I keep driving, I'm good. Like, are you okay? You sure? All right, I'm good. And then to a certain point, almost drive off the road, kill us both. And at that point, my wife was like, you need to take some serious action to figure out what's going on. I feel like if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't even know, I probably would be dead or, driving off the road at that point, and it really took me to take further action to get another sleep study. And I met a couple other doctors to where they're like, maybe you have something else other than sleep apnea, and that at that point I did another sleep study, and they told me to do a multiple latency test, which diagnoses other types of sleep disorders, and come to find out I had narcolepsy. And I was like, nah, there's no way I got narcolepsy. And really every time I think of narcolepsy, I don't know if you guys seen the movie Deuce Bigalow, Mel Gigolo, is where he's on the date with the girl, and she just falls asleep, passes out, falls down the stairs. Like, nah, I'm not doing all that. But they come to find out I do, you know what I mean? And after that, I was like, man, I have times of feeling embarrassed, isolation, and just keeping things to myself, to where I'm like, man, this is not good, and really it just came to a surprise. And I've tried multiple medications, still figure out multiple medications to where they've helped, but at the same time, I'm still trying to figure that out, and really what has helped me out so much is football. I've been playing since I was so young that when I'm playing, I don't have any symptoms, and really it doesn't really bother me, and I've been doing that for most of my life. And it really wasn't until I did a thing called My Calls, My Cleats, where through the entire NFL, you share your claws, something that's important to you, and you wear it on your cleats. You do a cool design on your shoes to where you show it on. And I kind of ran into Julie and Project Sleep on accident. You know, I was on Instagram just scrolling around, looking for people that have narcolepsy, and I was like, huh, let me reach out and really just open my eyes to a community of other people that have narcolepsy. You know, and if it wasn't for that, you know, I probably would still be feeling that isolation and really just anxiety that comes along with having narcolepsy. And really, it was just wonderful to connect. I've done multiple projects with Julie and Project Sleep, and it's helped me out so much just to reach out and see that there are other people dealing with this, you know, and have this condition. And really, and as a Black man, I feel like people don't know about this, you know. And one of my teammates asked me when I was at the New York Jets, like, are you feeling sleepy right now? Like, he really wanted to know more about what narcolepsy was, what other sleep conditions were out there. And at that point, I'm like, man, I feel like that was my duty to spread that, you know, just through Black men and really just men in general, you know. And a lot of men don't know about that and don't really care to take the time to reach out to resources to where they can get help, you know. And really that's where I met Dr. Turner and just started to figure out how I can share my story and bring awareness to other sleep conditions, narcolepsy, sleep apnea, anything that affects your mental state. So really that's my story. And I just want to thank you guys for having me here, and hopefully I can continue to learn and yeah, thank you.
All right, so one of the things that we felt like was really important for this conference was that unlike other academic conferences in particular, we didn't want to have a bunch of experts coming here and basically lecturing. We wanted to have it such that it's a very interactive, engaging experience. So we hope to learn, you know, from Josh, but we also hope to learn from you as well. So I'm going to ask him a couple questions, but I'm hoping that you'll be able to ask questions as well and you know, learn from him. But then I'm sure that maybe some of you have some experiences with your sleep and that we can share with one another. We can have a dialogue, really. I'm hoping that this is throughout the whole day is just a back and forth dialogue. And so one of the things that I want to start with, Josh, is that I think for you to tell your story is just incredibly brave, right? For me personally, when I think about this, I mean, here you are, right? You can tell which one of us is still in the NFL and which one isn't, right? But you know, you're basically putting yourself out there on Front Street, right? And people, you know, they have all different kinds of thoughts of what it means to have narcolepsy. Would you share with us why you chose to do this? And what are some of the stranger things that people have asked you about or said to you about narcolepsy?
Oh yeah, it's just important. I feel like it's important to share my story because you know, talking about this, you know, especially I've been in 5 different locker rooms now to where you don't really share what you got going on outside of football. You know what I mean? So hello? All right. You don't really hear people sharing what they're going through outside of football until you see it blow up on them in the locker room, or you know what I mean? Then you're like, okay, what's going on? Something's going on with them outside of this building, you know? And can you hear me? Yeah. Better? Yeah, it doesn't really. So I'm trying to bring awareness to really just any type of really sleep condition, things that can help to where they don't blow up on you. You know, you can talk about this. There's a free space to talk about this, and so where it doesn't blow up on you eventually. You know, it doesn't. You have an outlashing. I've seen multiple outlashing with people just not necessarily going crazy, but tell that there's been something that's just building up, so they don't have anywhere to release that. So hopefully I can bring awareness and just share my story to where they feel more comfortable about sharing what they got going on. So,
Kalpana, I know you have the microphone, so you can pass it around to anyone that has questions. If you'd like to question or comment, please raise your hand and then she'll just kind of bring you to the mic. We have Brother Brian McGee there. Let's hand it to Brian. Former Cal football player.
Go Bears. Good morning, Josh. Man, I want to thank you for sharing your story. My question is, were you able to share your experience with former players in the NFL or current players? And if so, have they disclosed that they also has been dealing with this, I don't want to call it illness or condition?
I've shared my story with people, and it's funny you say that because they share other things that they got going on. I have hopefully he's comfortable with me saying this. Brandon Brooks, he just retired, really great lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles, and really just talking about him dealing with anxiety, and how he deals with it. And I feel like once we get to talking, he really unwound and like, okay, cool, you got something on, I got something going on too. And really, and other people would just ask me like, man, like, how do you deal with that? And I'm still trying to figure that out. It's an ongoing process, and just sharing that lets them know I feel that they can reach out, you know what I mean? And talk to me, talk to any other player about what's going on outside of football. So.
And how do you feel like, because we talked earlier, you were an undrafted free agent, right? How do you feel that your sleep condition has impacted your career, like even from a young kid all the way up to the pros? How has it impacted? Because it took a while for you to figure out what your situation was.
I think it impacted me good and bad, you know what I mean? Just because, off the field, like, I think it put a chip on my shoulder to where football, I just took all my frustration and isolation and really just all the things I was dealing with out on the field. You know what I mean? It made me play better to a certain degree, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm not until this really open. You know what I mean? I don't like to share a whole lot. Yeah, and that's just for me being sleepy all the time. You know what I mean? And just feeling uncomfortable with having that conversation. But now that I'm opening up, it's definitely been better. But before I knew that I had narcolepsy, I just didn't really open up to where I felt comfortable doing that. So, yeah.
Any other questions? We have a microphone out there.
Hi, Josh. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I think it's important that we share our stories with the community, but also you mentioned that you were, tested for sleep apnea and then tested for sleep apnea. And I find that happens a lot, especially in the Black communities, that we're not giving all the diagnostic testing that we need. And so we're giving 1 or 2 random tests, nothing's wrong, and we go back into the community. So can you tell us what signs and symptoms you are experiencing? And then what testing is necessary in order for someone to get diagnosed with narcolepsy? What was the test you had?
Yeah, it's funny you said that. Really, I think I want to say people go half their life misdiagnosed with narcolepsy, and I was one of them for sure. And what did it for me is really just, I've gone back. My wife was the one who was like, all right, you need to go back and talk to them and just I feel that there's something other than narcolepsy or sleep apnea, you know what I mean? And having her in my corner really pushed me to see that other test, and the multiple latency test was one of the tests, which basically you do the sleep test, which is the overnight sleep test. And then the next day they put you through, I think 5 really 15-minute naps, and if you go into REM automatically or really fast, that's one of the key factors that you have narcolepsy, is that you go into that deep sleep right away. So.
Thank you, Josh, for sharing your story as well. Along the same lines of like misdiagnosis, when you were a kid, in school, did they ever mislabel you as like inattentive or any of these things? Because I feel like that happens a lot with kids where they look inattentive, but it's really a lack of sleep and things. And so as a young Black boy, what was that experience like for you? Or were there any issues that you look back on and it's like, man, that makes sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's funny, not really funny, but definitely been labeled as lazy at times, and definitely not lazy. And the thing is, like, I get my work done, and feel like after just me being, just going through school, I have pictures of me knocked out in class, you know what I mean? And it's funny, but like at the same time, like, no, it's not funny. And I got my work done, and I did things. It took me that extra effort to really go back and see my notes or see my friends' notes, you know what I mean? And really just, but definitely labeled as lazy, you know what I mean? Why you sleep all the time in class, and even in my meetings, it takes me, I have to do work so hard just to stay awake, and I'm always chewing gum, eating seeds, or really drinking a bunch of liquids so I can get up and go to the bathroom, come back, so I'm alert, awake. So like that's been my go-to when I'm playing, even in class, throughout school. I've always done that. I've always had something to, I'm playing with a ball or something to keep me awake, keep me alert.
Let me ask, we talked about this a little bit, but so as an athlete, your schedule is like crazy, especially during season and your schedule off season. You've got to, your physical health is really important. For you, what do you, when you think about brain health and you think about managing your narcolepsy, how do you bring those two together in terms of, making sure that you are the best Josh that you can be to play football and in life?
Just bringing structure to my day, planning things out. I have to plan out a nap throughout the day, just so now that I have 2 kids, I have a wife and kids now, have to plan it out. It's a non-negotiable thing that I have to do every day, just so I can be there for my family later on. Because if I don't take that nap, I'm groggy, I'm having mood swings, you know what I mean? And I might be even dozing off while I'm playing with my kids, or really just being around my wife. And having that structure throughout the day, having those things set out, planned out throughout the day is just, it helps me manage narcolepsy. And I feel like that's been my secret, not really my secret, just things that have worked for me managing narcolepsy. So.
We have a question over here.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Josh, for sharing your story, and thanks to the organizers today. I'm from the Alzheimer's dementia world, so I don't know much about narcolepsy, but what I'm wondering, and you answered some of it just now, whether there are treatments. It sounds like there's a lot of behavioral things you can do to help, but whether there are other treatments. And also, when you finally were diagnosed, did anybody suggest that you could participate in a research study, whether it's for a drug or just for, trying some behavioral intervention or anything like that?
So yeah, I've been using medication, Vyvanse, to manage it. And playing in the NFL, you have to go through a therapeutic use, a TUE, and there's some drugs that I can't really use right now, or they think it's not a good idea to use, so they steer me away from them. So hopefully after I'm done playing, I can try some different drugs that I can use to manage it better. So
Notice on that right hand over there, you see that bling? Okay, that's a Super Bowl ring, right? And so we call that the pretty much successful. Tell us about that experience, playing the Super Bowl and the run to there as an undrafted free agent coming from California, going up to Oregon. Tell us about that journey.
Man, it's quite the journey. Just being undrafted, it's hard. You have to stand out to get noticed, you know what I mean? To be on teams and feel like I've done that, especially with the Eagles. My first few years, I broke my hand my 3rd year, really the year we went to the Super Bowl. So I was out, but before that, you have to do extra stuff, and really, I feel like with narcolepsy, I've always had that mindset that I have to do something extra to stay ahead, to get ahead of the challenge, you know what I mean? To be up with the competition. And really that whole process up until I won the Super Bowl ring and just up until now, it's always had that mindset where, okay, what else can I do? What extra things can I do? What film study can I do later on? And really, how do I study? You know what I mean? Who do I reach out to get a better knowledge of the game? You know, and but that's really just been my thing that's worked for me and kept me in the league, you know. And one of the things that kept me in the league just really is my, like I was saying, I'm a competitor. You know, anybody who's on this level playing competitive sport, professional sports is a competitor, and I'm a great teammate. You know, I pride myself on how can I help others out. You know what I mean? How can I, if I help them out, then I make myself better, and really, and just give them all the effort that I got. You know, and like you said before, you don't know how long you're gonna play this game for, and having that mindset just keep showing your toes all the time, and really just as my career progressed, that's what's really kept me in the league.
We have time for just a few more before we wrap up, but are there other questions? You know, I'm sitting up here asking questions, but are other things that you want to ask? I mean, like, again, we've got a guy who made it to the pinnacle of this thing, and it's certainly not easy. And then he's willing to talk and share. And, you know, and I think about a lot of times, how do we get this message? How do we take it back to where we live? How do we, earlier we talked about Brian stood up. He's a social worker, and he's working in the community. And, you know, there's all these issues that the young men that you work with, how do you bring up an issue about sleep, right? You know, what we may see is irritability, you know, moodiness, and all of these other things. And oftentimes, again, we have young Black boys get labeled in a certain way, and people may not even think about their sleep. And then how do you get people who maybe don't have insurance or all these other things? How do you get them actually to get these sleep tests and everything? You have any thoughts about that, Brian? Any ideas? I mean, you're out there. You're out there in the community.
Thank you. One of the challenges is societal. I mean, poverty is one of the biggest things that's impacting some of our Black boys in the community of Oakland, where I am, where it's pretty progressive. But in terms of diagnosis, assessing, my job is really to watch body language of some of our kids, you know, facial expressions, attention, you know, how long are they engaged? Like you mentioned being engaged. And a lot of our kids say to me, I didn't get enough sleep last night because I was locked out of my house, or I was cursed out, so I left the house. And so by the time I get back home, I have to come to amends so I can have a place to sleep and get some rest. Most of our kids don't get enough rest, sleep, period, because of what's going on in their community and their homes. And so those are some of the things I'm dealing with on a day-to-day basis. You know, there's always like a crisis mode case per case. And so I'm going in trying to say, how can I bring something that kids can see differently? I come with love. I come with love first and non-judgmental. I do not judge our kids because I don't know their situation until I'm really engaged in finding out their family background, family history. So absent fathers are incarcerated, there's lack of mentors. And so I find myself being that mentor, social worker, case manager, clinical social worker, transporter, coach. You know, I also coach high school football. So those things are very important. I think we have to start with love. I mean, I've always leaned in there, and then be able to develop a relationship, a trust, and create a rapport with our young men. So, and then again, they can tell you everything. I mean, you know, I'm like, oh, I ain't with all that, you know, but you get a sense of a lot of information, and then you just put together a plan for them. Every kid has a different plan that need to be treated. And so, you know, being a former athlete, and I see you up there, man, congratulations. You know, I didn't go to the NFL, you know, I went to Dallas Cowboys and came right back home. You know, they say you need to go to Canada or something like that. I'm like, I didn't have no money to go to Canada. I didn't have an agent. But my point is this, is that the work that I do, I don't see the work that I do as a social worker as a job. It's a lifestyle. Because I've seen things in my family. I'm first generation college graduate. Nobody in my family went to college. So to see you up there, Josh, man, I am proud of you, brother. Whatever I mean, I would love to connect with you and build something because, you know, are you in the West Coast now? Yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon. Okay. So that's great. So I think it's important that we walk into a room, we see young people, show love first because they read us like we read them. You know, you want to build that trust and don't fake it with our kids because they can read that. Start where they are, meet them where they are and be patient because we can't change a kid's behavior overnight and condition overnight. It's a work in progress. So start off with love. And I that's what I do all the time, every day. People say, hey, why are you so positive? I said, man, I'm here. I'm a change agent. I want to change the lives of these kids so they can know, hey, I was there and this is what I did to get out of it. So thank you.
We have one more question. You have a question?
Yes, we have several folks that have been asking questions virtually. So we have one last one for you, and that is from Mr. Mike Tolliver. The question is, how does diet come into play, and are there any trigger foods that you have?
Just being a professional athlete, when I'm in the off season, try to eat as much healthy as can. Like I cut back on fried foods, but there's times where I can tell what I eat certain things. It makes me either like more tired and more groggy, and I have to watch that sometimes, and really trying to think of like things that really trigger. I would say like fried foods. I feel like fried foods sometimes, like steak sometimes messes me up, but I don't know, that's universal though. That's just me. But as far as sleepiness, definitely makes me more tired. I definitely can feel the effects of those things.
So I just want to again say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I mean, Julie reached out, and I mean, just your bravery, just your willingness to be honest and share and let the world know, right? So that we can all collectively as a community, to each one, teach one, and have each other's back, man. So I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, from all the other people that work within putting this conference together, thank you so very much. All right.